final question. I'm really excited to ask you all this. We can do a list of 10, but I do want it to be in order.
You're so messy.
The list of players who have the most to prove this postseason.
Bet. Okay.
Who's top of your list, Ashley? I need to know. Who's top of your list has something to prove?
Jason Christopher Tatum.
Is that his middle name?
Yeah, I think. I just gave him one, really. I'm guessing.
Bruce.
I think I've seen Christopher.
I think it's a great number one. I think Joel Embiid is surprisingly number two. If he makes a comeback, I think he is, albeit hobbled, also has very much something to prove. 3, I'm gonna say Giannis too. I think that talk is still there.
What is there to prove?
Now,
Dunk man.
I will say this: Giannis is on my list of 10. Don't get me wrong; he's not 3. That's way too high for somebody.
I think there's still too much. I think he still has more to prove than like a Luka, even though Luka has only made it to a certain point in some people's eyes.
Miguel, I'm asking for your list.
Yes, and that's my list. I have Giannis 3.
So you think Giannis has more to prove than Luka does?
I'm going. My brain is everyone's brain. I'm using the common NBA watchers.
AI.
I'm taking
Google.
AI. You literally just gave it away. Thank you.
Yeah, you did. My brain is everyone's brain.
I am using what I know.
You are ChatGPT.
I am using the people's point. I'm speaking for the people.
No,
that's all I'm doing.
Okay, so I agree. I agree with Tatum at 1, and that's him being 1 is not a knock as much as it is opportunity.
Absolutely,
he has the most to prove because this should be the year that he does what everybody expects. Like the expectations match the opportunity here. That's the only reason he's number 1. Just for those that feel like we got a bias against JT because we don't. I agree with Embiid being 2. At least hit the conference finals. You know, man. That honestly, truly, no shade. You know what I'm saying? But 3, Giannis isn't 3 because I'm not putting Giannis over Dame on this list.
Okay.
To who needs to prove more? Because Dame, and also for the Bucks' success, Dame will need to be better. So Dame has more to prove because what has been the knock on Dame? Oh, he's in Portland. He's this great player. He's clutching in the playoffs. No team built around him for success. No excuse. You have a team built around you for success. Does that come with adjustments and everything? Absolutely. But when they get down to it, you want to win a championship, right? That's what you've been saying. This is your best opportunity to do that, and y'all have a legit chance. You have to do your part. Has to be more efficient. Has to be better. So he's going to be higher, and he's 3 for me.
Yeah, I think that pushes Giannis to 5 for me because then I put Doc Rivers 4.
So Giannis is still not as high on this list for me. I see what's happening, Miguel. So do you think Giannis is higher on this list than a Porzingis?
I don't think anyone's really clocking Porzingis.
Yeah, but Porzingis.
No one's pocket watching Porzingis.
Now. Let's not forget. Porzingis, like when he came into the league, big expectations, right?
Yeah.
Had a solid little stint in New York before the injury, right?
Yeah.
Went to Dallas, didn't really work out. Went to Washington, had solid numbers, but I mean, just not a team that was really vying for anything. He is in a situation where it's not just about his numbers. Like they matter, but he also has a legit opportunity to win something. And if he does not show up, and that is the reason why the Celtics or if him showing up does play a role in the Celtics getting over that hump, I don't think we're clocking him because Porzingis is not. Nobody's looking at Porzingis like if he gets a chip, he's on this list, or if he gets a chip, he gets into this conversation. But as a player who was in the postseason on a contending team, does he have something to prove this offseason?
I would have Jaylen Brown having more on his shoulders than KP. Just off price tag alone. Like we're paying you $300 million and you can't crack, this far in the conference final, wherever they may end up.
So the reason why JT is a star, right? No disrespect to Jaylen Brown. JT is the star of the team. Take contract out of it. I'm not saying JB doesn't have responsibility, but with JT and JB, you talking about players who done been to the conference finals already, who done been to a finals already. So in terms, the last hump for them is to get the chip. Like they've shown they can get to a finals.
Yeah.
But also with the makeup of the team, Porzingis is the key. He's the X factor. I think that Jaylen Brown has something to prove, right? I don't know personally if I have him over Porzingis just because I feel like JB and JT are already the tandem, but we've already acknowledged that them alone isn't enough. So in terms of who has something to prove, that's why I think Porzingis is still higher because he has more to prove in his role than Jaylen Brown does. To me.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
I don't expect Jaylen Brown to not be Jaylen Brown with all that comes with.
What is being Jaylen Brown though?
Being Jaylen Brown
inconsistent.
Exactly.
In the playoffs, Jaylen Brown should be 24, 25 a game, right? I get that he doesn't consistently do that. I just think that we've seen what they can do with his inconsistency. His inconsistency hasn't stopped them from getting to conference finals. Didn't stop them from getting to the finals. So when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the fact that we already know what to expect from them and we know what their ceiling is, with the duo being like head over heels talent-wise than the rest of the roster. But they've never had a third option like a Porzingis. They've never had another 20-point scorer consistent.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like you letting JB take too much of a back seat. Way too much of a back seat.
I don't think he will.
With a $300 million back seat.
Yeah.
So are y'all saying because he's the number 2 option and because of his contract, he just has more to prove because if they don't win a championship, that falls on his shoulders more than
absolutely
Porzingis.
Yeah, and because of his history, because KP has been like one bad year in Dallas where it didn't work in the playoffs, but other than that, he's been injured. Where it's just like JB, we've seen him there again and again and again, and like, I feel like that is where the pressure becomes more surmounting, where it's like it's just piling on of like, all right, well, when are we going to see the success in the playoffs? Now you have Porzingis, so now it's like you two should be able to do this, right? I feel like the pressure is more so on those front two guys than it is, the guy that they brung in this year to see if it works.
I get that. I can't argue that. But to your point, when you say because Porzingis is there, they should be able to do more. What I'm saying is Porzingis, what you're being asked to do, like what we're looking for Jaylen Brown to do, he's already been asked to do.
Like KP was like, "Oh, we're bringing the championship piece."
Yes, that's exactly why they gave up Marcus Smart. Because mind you, Drew fell into their lap. They sacrificed that identity to go get somebody else who could give them more offense. Like that was their initial move. They lucked up and got Drew because of what we did. So that's why I say, mind you, if they don't get Drew and they just did something else, but like their main roster featured the 2 J's and basically KP, like he'd be even more of an X factor.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, I guess because for Tatum and Brown, it's already been established. I guess that's why I think KP is a bit higher. Like, I mean, I would say him and Jaylen Brown are probably right there. I just think he's a bit higher because I don't think his role can be downplayed because they are the contenders they are in large part to his role. Like, yeah, Jaylen Brown is great. Jason Tatum is great. But them having 3 20-point per game scorers is more scarier than just the wing tandem that they have. So that's my logic on it. But I do agree Brown is in there too because the inconsistencies are, I think, because of JT's inconsistencies, Jaylen Brown's inconsistencies come to light more because you never have to account for both of them being off the same night, but it's almost like, I guess you never really know. So it's still, but then they have a hell of an insurance policy in Porzingis too, in case one of them is off. So, unless they playing Joker, but nonetheless, that's that. So we agree on the top three. We agree on the top three, though. We agree on the top three. So we got Tatum, Embiid, and Dame. We agree on the top three.
Yeah.
Okay. So 4 is where it seems like y'all have Jaylen Brown, or would y'all have somebody else above Jaylen Brown?
No, honestly, I will put Jaylen Brown second because I feel like Embiid. I feel like with the injury, Embiid does make the list, but with the injury, how much expectations can we have on him? If he doesn't get hurt and he has this MVP season that he was having, where he's dropping 40 almost a night, like
he might be one. He'd be one.
Yeah,
he get injured for sure.
Yeah. But I think we have to be considerate of that. And I want to put Cat on my list, but again, being injured, because it's like, now how many times are we going to get, like when we had the conversation, do you trade Cat and keep a Nas Reed and, develop that way? But in some ways, Cat makes this list too. But I'll let him slide down as well. So I think I'll have Embiid 4. So for me, it's Jason, Jaylen. Who did I put third? Help me. Dame, then Embiid, then Cat.
Okay.
For me, it'd be Jason. I think Dame would be slid to second. I think Embiid would be third. I think Giannis would be fourth. Jaylen Brown fifth.
I am really interested in why Giannis is so high on this list for you. Like I said, he's in this list of 10, but top 5.
I just think the just people in general. I don't think that he's gotten his respect as a basketball player yet. I don't think that he gets his respect in terms of being able to know the game and being able to impact the game on skill. I still think that they still talk about him as run and dunk man that can't hit a free throw and travels. I feel like he needs a couple more. He needs more playoff success too, because people still see that championship as a fluke. They still don't. They're like, oh, he injured Kyrie and KD's toe is on the line. But if not, they're not winning that series ever. So I feel like to really prove that he can is winning when everyone's healthy.
I understand that is a narrative that the media is portraying. I don't really feel like too many championships are truly a fluke, because let's not forget that Giannis hyperextended his knee before the finals.
He did,
and he was not supposed to be back as soon as he was. Nowhere near 100%.
Yep. But we know this. The casuals.
But what I'm saying is a lot of championships have some luck involved. A lot of teams have players missing. So I'm saying to that narrative, that's my argument. As far as him proving that, I think it's hard to say that Giannis has to prove that he's this level of player by meeting the standards of others. I agree that, it would be nice to see him get more playoff success. It would be nice to see him get to at least another conference finals, especially with this current roster. But I also don't think that the last 2 losses in the playoffs have been Giannis's fault.
He was hurt last one, and
so
then before that,
in terms of Giannis before that, Middleton was hurt. But as far as Giannis's, what Giannis has to prove, I don't think Giannis will falter. I have not seen Giannis falter in the playoffs. Yes, the Bucks collapsed, but when you look at what Giannis did in 4 and 5, I don't think that's him as an individual. For the context of this list, I don't think that's him faltering. So, in terms of what he has to prove, I think we know what to expect from Giannis. So, if we're going off of what he has to prove by the Bucks winning a championship for this list, that's a bit dicey for me, because like I said, I think it more depends on Dame's contributions because I feel like I know what I'm gonna get from Giannis in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even based on the regular season, I know what I'm gonna get from Giannis in the playoffs. So that's why he's not high. But because of the narrative, he'd make it because it's still like if you're gonna be this great, if you're trying to work your way into a top 20, top 15, top 10 thing, then yeah, you're gonna need some more hardware anyway. But that's why he
Yeah.
would be top 5 for me. That
Yeah.
that's why I'm a bit surprised you have him so high because in terms of what he's proved individually already, like he is the only name we've mentioned so far that has a chip.
Yeah.
And the other players we would name probably don't have a chip. So that's where I'm like, how can he be higher on this list than somebody who don't got a chip?
Yeah. I just think it's just narrative because I feel like even with that chip, people don't see it as a chip. They classify it as the bubble. They classify it lower than the bubble ring.
No, they don't.
Oh,
No, they don't. That's crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy.
that's sick.
100%, because once they came out and said, "Oh yeah, that was the hardest championship that ever was gotten," then that validated everything they needed to hear. Once they heard that it was the most pure form of hoops, then that changed what everyone thought immediately after it happened, and then revisionist history came to be. With Giannis's, I continue to see he injured Kyrie. KD's toe shouldn't be on the line. KD has a ring. I see it from people from Milwaukee on my Facebook. I'm like, bro,
So
shut up.
Gail, but okay, so remove the Milwaukee bias, remove the media narrative of it all. He's
Gone.
still that high to you?
Yeah, because I think without Milwaukee bias, I still see the narrative from national media of like he is not who we think he is. But like people still think that he's right on the coattails of Chris Milton saving his ass in late game situations.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, I
give me
understand
what I'm telling you.
I
My
understand
AI,
the thought of wanting Giannis to have more of his skill set on display in high pressure situations such as the playoffs. I get that whole thing because, I do hear a lot about people saying that his game is one note, but it's one note that you can't defend. It's the same like with a Shaq, you know what I mean? Like one note game post game, but he's still just great at his game. And I don't think you could take that away from Giannis. We don't take it away from Shaq or Hakeem or, anyone else that was dominant. So why are we taking it away from Giannis? I
I
do.
I understand that.
I mean, I feel like people that are thinking that Giannis has more to prove are fishing for something. And do I want Giannis to win more rings? Yes. And I think he needs that as far as the argument of his legacy. But proving something, I don't
So
know.
so Gail, it's not super comparable, but I look at the fact that LeBron has nothing else to prove. Like if he gets more things, great. But in terms of what he has to prove, nothing. I don't
Yeah.
think Giannis has as much to prove past how great will he be. Like
Yeah.
anything done at this point is
Legacy.
legacy building, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not him.
Yeah.
He's already proved that he's arrived. He's already
Mm-hmm.
proved that he's a superstar. He already proved that he's a franchise player. He's already proved most of the individual things that you can prove. So even to put him like to have Giannis in the same field of this list as Embiid, crazy to me. No disrespect to Embiid. As Jaylen Brown, crazy to me. Even as Dame, all respect to Dame, and of course, obviously, know why he was brought to Milwaukee, but those are not the same situations. So to me, he cannot be that close to those players. I think 7 to 10 or like 8 to 10 on this list. Cause like if Kawhi is on this list, which he may not be for y'all, but if Kawhi was on this list for me, the argument would be because of narrative, because you're already talking about a 2-time Finals MVP, 2 times NBA champion. So what we're looking for him to prove is, did you just luck up a few years ago, or are you actually still like that? Since you do have a potential contending team,
And
around you.
I think just to clarify, I think the reason I have him there is because even when you name him with those players where it's like Tatum, Embiid, Dame, uh, I think I mean, hell, we still have the conversation: who's more skilled, AD or Giannis? Like,
Do we?
Yeah.
yes, yes. Even
I don't have that
after,
conversation.
Yeah.
AD is
no, but
way
I
more
mean, like,
skilled than Giannis.
there we go. Well, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Where it's like there is no like, no matter what this man does, like there is always going to be a knock on what he's doing. Where it's like, if he's not doing it as polished as certain guys, if he's not doing it as, without, charging through people to do it, I feel like there is still a knock on his game because it is the way it is. And I feel like he doesn't get the respect that Shaq does because he isn't this back to the basket big, where he is a bit more of like a combo, like from the wing, drive into the paint, knock somebody's down, get a bucket, where it's like that's where I think like there is still something that needs to be proven. Where it's like that is still there outside of the Milwaukee bias. It's like you can take yourself out of Milwaukee. The narrative is he wouldn't be able to do it if there's a healthy Kyrie, healthy KD. Where it's like I do stand 10 toes on that. People think that that ring was more of a fluke than most of the others in the past 5 years that happened. Like if you include Denver, if you include Golden State, if you go back to Toronto 2019, I feel like you are going to pull where people are going to say that that was the flukiest ring, and there was a bubble ring where we had the best record that year, and then COVID happened, and now everyone comes back healthy after 3 months rest. I it is what it is. But that is my mentality on why he lands there, because like even when you name him with all those players, skill set wise, he's still probably going to be 10 behind skill wise. He's going to be 10 behind everyone on this list. Even if I throw Paul George on this list, even if I throw
Who
James
cares
Harden
about
on
the
this list.
skill?
I was just gonna say, like,
I'm
there's
just
Skill
saying,
doesn't play a role in this list.
in terms of what it means, like to have playoff success and what it means to attain that success. I feel like there are still knocks to where Giannis made it, where it's like there's still going to be doubts about like why he was able to get that ring back in the day.
but it's like Kyrie is more skilled than Book, and had Book won that chip against you guys, does that take away from how great Book is? No, it doesn't, because he's still a big contribution to what his team does, and he's still consistent, and he's still a name that we respect. Like, I don't know
But
if you could take away from.
it's the same when Steph had his however many before, like until he got his fourth one, there were still people that were like, he's got to prove it because he did it with AD twice.
I don't know who needs Steph to prove anything.
There was like this sigh of relief when Steph got his fourth one of like, oh look, he was able to do it on his own pretty much.
Steph already had did it on his own, and the only reason the fourth championship mattered and the finals MVP mattered was honestly for top 10 consideration. Like that,
but
at that
that
point,
is still
the shooting record, the fourth ring, the MVP win against a younger team who had great players too, on the road, and it's back to your big three: Clay, Dre, Steph.
And I'm saying if you asked people before that year, they were going to say who still had something to prove in the playoffs. Steph would have been one of them because he didn't have that Finals MVP, and it still does go to like aura building or what is it, legacy building. But I still think that plays a part in who has something to prove in the playoffs.
So Miguel, you keep saying people. What I'm trying to figure out is
AI.
this how you feel?
No,
going off of how people.
Like I said, I'm answering for the general populace. This is
Chat GPT.
I take no joy in answering this. I think that man has zero things to prove in this world ever. He's an immigrant that shared shoes with the Gnosis to make it to where he's at. He has zero things to prove. But I'm going off of what people are going to say. I don't agree. I'm just giving you with what I got.
Luka.
I'm not there yet with Luka.
In terms of
I got
something.
I got PG at 6.
I'm off the PG. I'm off the PG train.
Oh, you have no expectations.
No, I don't.
That's
The
juicy.
Hey,
minute
no, I mean,
the minute PG basically said I'm a Robin, what more do I have to expect from you? You clearly, so you said you're a help player. You're B, you're option B. I don't have any expectations of you then. In terms of this list, because everybody
that's
on
all I
this
gotta say. I want to be Robin of the podcast. No one's gonna expect a thing out of me now. I can just log in, just kind of look at
We
y'all.
don't know what to expect. That's the thing.
we never do. We never do. Harden,
Harden is my 7.
Oh, okay.
Anthony Edwards.
Oh,
I got Shea before I got Ant.
I don't have
That's
either of them
crazy.
on my list. I think it's too early for the both of them.
Because Ant, I only have
I don't think
I
it's too
have
early.
I literally have Ant 9 after Shea 8 because Shea has a healthy team going into this playoffs, and I feel like there's more that you can expect with them. Ant is already going in
So does Ant.
one cat down.
So Ant has less to prove now because he doesn't have Cat.
Yeah,
That's
I think.
Pretty much.
that's
I
big.
mean, hey, I'm going by what the people are gonna.
But
Because I'm not
Steve,
He didn't
I'm
have
not talking
help.
about team success.
He didn't
I'm
have
not
help.
talking about team success
you're
necessarily.
saying personal player, but when you said Porzingis, you mentioned who he has, his team.
But I also mentioned his role. Now, granted, so I'm not saying the team aspect of it is
Mhm.
not a part of it. But even with Cat, they weren't winning no chip. I really don't think they was getting to the conference finals.
So, what are the expectations?
But the expectation is Ant's still supposed to take a leap. What Ant is supposed to prove is I'm not just top like this leap I took in the regular season, these expectations I've had throughout this season, I can continue and still show in the playoffs. And I think he has more of an opportunity to prove that without Cat.
Just because
So
ants can
let
lift 3
me.
times their body weight doesn't mean he can lift the weight of this team.
So you're saying that Ant could get bounced in the first round, but as long as he's averaging 30 in the series, he's cool. He's cool.
Depends on the first round matchup.
What are the expectations? Like, what does he have to live up to this season for you to be like, okay, I'm satisfied with that?
People
Or
say
this postseason?
people saying Ant can be the face of the league, right?
Who's people?
You.
Oh, you're right. You. A lot of people are saying.
So if Ant can be the face of the league, what MJ doing his third season? You know what I'm saying? Like what I ain't
Okay.
saying he got to do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if he face of the league, he should be turned up this playoffs.
Okay.
Whether they get bounced in the first rounds, whether he take them further than people expect, there should be a large gap in what he does and the impact he has in the playoffs than in the regular season.
Gotcha.
So when I'm saying prove in the postseason, it's like Ant needs to prove that, oh yeah, no, face of the league, I can be here. That's not them getting to the conference finals. That's him. Say they draw Dallas, right? They may not be favored in that, right? But if he go toe for toe with Luka, he proved what he needed to prove, and he did all that he can do. Because nobody may expect him to win that series. But am I looking for Ant to average? He averaging 26 regular season. Might have to be a 30 piece in the playoffs. I'm just saying.
Sounds like me in the lab.
29. You said what?
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. So 9 I have Ant.
Yeah.
So SGA, because he has a more complete team.
Yeah.
He has more to prove.
Yeah, y'all healthy.
Because you should be able to lead, and you're top 2 seed, and
What's their ceiling? What's their ceiling?
Western Conference Finals. You're a top 2 seed in the West.
Not could forget seed. Is their ceiling? If they were 3 or 4, which is only a matter of games.
No, that's middle of the pack.
But it's only a matter of games at this point.
If he's putting on Instagram, I'm number 2, not satisfied with 2, can't be number 2, then don't be number 2.
Yep.
Simple.
I think it's more so because he's an MVP candidate.
That too.
I feel like if you're an MVP candidate, top 3 at that.
All right, who's your number 10? Audience is gonna hate me.
I'll let y'all finish, My list is, I'm not going to say drastically different, but there are a few names on my list that you guys haven't mentioned.
Throw them in there.
Yeah, say it.
So we had JT, Jalen, Dame, and Embiid basically, and Cat, all in common. I have Anthony Davis on my list. It's not a name I heard you guys say. I also have Zion Williamson on my list.
Zion's a
I,
good name.
I have Devin Booker on my list. I have Brad Beal on my list for the same reasons that you have Porzingis. And I have Paul George on my list. Now, I understand why you don't have Paul George, which made me second guess that. That's why he's 10th, because it's like, what more should I expect from you? You're wasting, like, my energy trying to get something out of you in the playoffs. But,
Top 5 hairlines in the NBA.
oh,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
Jalen Rose, him.
Yeah.
You know.
Very strong hairline.
I don't have expectations for Beal. Not because I don't think he's in a similar. So with him and PG, it's like when I'm looking at like what they have to prove, Beal's had an injury-ridden season. So even as they get to the playoffs, I mean, don't know if he's 100%. Not saying that necessarily matters a lot, but he's also your third option. So it's just kind of like, yeah, you could prove that you work great as a third option, even though you're first option talent. Like, but it's kind of hard to. I feel Bill's respect is already. It might have reached its ceiling because even if Phoenix was to win, right, it's still like he'd still be the third option. So it's like, yeah, you got a ring, but you also were playing with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, two players who most people would probably put over you. Mm-hmm. So not to disrespect them, but I think when you're in those situations, what you're proving isn't like you trying to get a ring. So he's already proved himself as a player. And and I don't think that we see Beal. I think the shot of him being somebody who enters some of them top conversations, whether it be per position or in general, I think those are done. I don't think that'll happen in his career. Not to say he's not a great player. He's just not the upper echelon of great players. And that's where I feel like PG falls into. Hall of Famer. Both of them are probably, maybe. Well, I don't know about Bill. PG has a better case. But like, both of them, like their names will be remembered. Like PG will be a Hall of Famer. But that's why it's like, yeah, PG, it would be great to see you play consistent and help, the Clippers win a championship. But I don't really care about you proving that because you've had 4 years to prove that. Granted, injuries, this, that, and the third, all of that. But I'm not putting no stock in that saying this will change everything for him. Because I also don't think a championship run changes much about PG's narrative. Like, yeah, if he plays well, the Clippers aren't cursed anymore. You know what I'm saying? But will we be surprised? Would it be PG proving much outside of, I can actually, put up consistent numbers in the playoffs? So like maybe, but like how much will we care about that? We already know who PG is. So that's why he wouldn't be in the mix for me. I feel like a lot of players fall into that category for me, like the PG, Bradley Beal. That Book is interesting though. I agree. Book is in that 10.
Who is your 10 though, Qualls?
I don't even know where my list is after 5 because the names threw me off.
I got my 10.
Tatum was 1, Embiid was 2. Well, Embiid moving down because of the injury thing. So Tatum is 1, Dame is 2.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna put Jaylen Brown at 3.
I think that's fair. I had Embiid 3, but I think Jaylen Brown goes 3. Embiid, Giannis. No, actually Giannis 3 for me. Jaylen Brown 4, Embiid 5.
Yeah, Brown, Embiid. I think I had Porzingis at 5. I think I'm gonna go Luka 6. No.
Paul George 6.
No.
Shea.
Luka 6. Shay 7, Ant 8. Giannis 9. Booker 10.
Booker 10. Are you on to my 10th?
Mm-hmm.
Nikola Joker.
What, Miguel?
That's insane.
Hey man, he got a ring over an 8 seed. They really saw no real comp. One of the also easier rings in the last 5 years.
Who's the comp they missed out on, Gil?
Boston, Milwaukee. In the West, who they face? Who they face really?
They eat Boston alive. Milwaukee maybe has the better chance because
Late.
defensively.
Miguel, what are
They
you
face a
talking about?
40-year-old Braun. Western Conference Finals is really just kind of a
Miguel, what
for them.
are you talking
This
about?
is Chat GPT.
This is Chat Gel PT.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you what I've seen on X, what I've seen on Facebook from like, distant uncles that, have topics of interest that include basketball. I think, he's just good at raising horses. He, hits a lot of lucky shots. They didn't really wow me. I mean, Adam Silver really chose him to win last year, so I mean, they got to prove it to me by winning twice. Luke is the GOAT. I mean, he has nothing to prove to me. 34 a game, almost a triple double. No respect given to my, I was about to say something crazy on that note.
Actually, did you finalize your list of 10?
I did.
Yep, she said PG was her 10th and final.
So can you go through your 10 again?
Yeah. JT 1, Jaylen Brown 2, Dame 3, Embiid 4, Cat 5, AD 6, Zion 7, Book 8, Brad 9, PG 10.
Damn, I feel like Zion should replace somebody on my list.
That man's got nothing to prove. That man's eating tables. He's good.
I mean, it's a number 1 pick. Like
I give him one more year.
I think you know what? Zion can replace Ant.
The Cajun King.
I'll remove Ant. Zion should be in there before Ant. Because I also trust Ant to do what I was
I
referring
do
to
too.
earlier. I believe he will.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more interesting to see whether this play from SGA translates to playoff series and playoff series wins at that. Because he'll need to be a 30 point per game scorer, potentially higher, to get through the West at that. So yeah, I could swap Ant for Zion. Because Zion's looked the best he has probably his
Yeah.
entire career. So yeah.